We're now going on to memo 4. So I want you to turn your page to memo 4 in your transactions manual. Now the first instruction in memo 4 is that we are to record the attached payment check received from Noya Wedding Party, reference invoice number 121, cash receipt number 298, check number 431, Noya Wedding Party. Please note the advantage of the 2% discount has been taken. So they have taken a 2% discount, obviously because they paid within 5 days. So this is we are recording a check, so this is a receipt. So I want you to go to receivables and receipts. Just click once, will bring up your receipts journal. Check at the top, paid by check, that is correct. Deposited to 1080 bank checking, that is correct. Check number, let's put in the check number 431. And then received from our client Noya Wedding Party, so just select Noya Wedding Party in the drop down menu. The date, let's put the date on the memo, which is 15 July, and that's your default date, so that's okay. Now if you go in there, you'll see that we've already got an invoice against which they are paying. The invoice, the original amount of the invoice was 945, so the amount owing is 945, but they have taken a discount of 1890. So let's type that in. And tap that through, and you'll see now that the total is 926, and that is what they're paying us, 926. And post. Okay, and close. We're going to go into number 2 in memo number 4, which says record the attached purchase invoice from Crystal Products. Send the attached check to Crystal Products. So from looking at that invoice, we bought a wedding centerpiece for $900. So obviously prices have gone up since we bought that centerpiece that the customer broke. We're replacing it for a price of $900. So we have there are two stages to this transaction. We have to record the purchase invoice, and then we have to send a payment. So the first step is an expense, because remember we have an invoice, so from a supplier, so to us that's an expense. So I want you to go to payables, click expense, and then I want you to put the payment method, pay later, and our supplier is Crystal Products Inc. Now Crystal Products Inc. is not a current supplier in our list of suppliers, so we're just going to quickly put them in, Crystal Products Inc. This is because actually Sage will not allow us to have pay later as a method for a one-time supplier. That is not in our system. So because it makes no sense to say pay later to someone who does not have an account. So for someone to pay later, they have to have an account, and so we're going to put in these people as a supplier for whom we have an account. So Crystal Products Inc. is enough. Pay later is the payment method. The invoice number is CP2990. So CP invoice number you'll find that when I try to go and put the invoice number, that Sage will complain and say Crystal Products Inc. is not in the supplier list. So either continue this as a one-time supplier or quick add. Just add the name for now. You can add detailed information later by editing the record. So that's what I want to do. I want to quick add so that it will allow me to use pay later as my payment method. And I won't bother to put details. I could actually put in address and so on because I do have it. But for now, I'll just say quick add. And then I'm going to put in my invoice number, CP 2990. The date is 9 July. Item quantity is, item number we don't have, so just tap that quantity is 1. And then wedding centerpiece. The price is 900 per unit. Tap that through, amount 900. Now, because this is a one-time supplier, we are going to have to link an account. Now, all our supplier accounts will be linked to 1080 bank checking account. Right, for the linked account here, I'm going to talk through why we link the account that we're about to link. Now, we are buying a centerpiece, so we're using our credit card, which is as good as cash, right, to buy this centerpiece, and we are going to put it in our inventory. And so we're going to increase the value of our inventory, and so I'm going to link this to 1420, which is our wedding supplies. So 1420 wedding supplies, an asset account. Select. I'm going to tap this through. Now for one-time suppliers, remember we said that let the text code be G as the default. So if for a one-time suppliers, let's just select G as the default text code. And so this will allow Sage to calculate the tax, which is $45. And post. And OK, close. The next step for this same transaction is now to send the payment, send the attached check. So when we are sending a payment, it means that's a payment. And so what I want you to do is to go to payables module, select payments, and it says pay supplier invoice. So that's the invoice you just put in, and by check, that's correct, and obviously check is linked to 1080. Check number is 202. We are going to pay Crystal Products. We just quick added them so we can find them, and the date we're doing this is on 10 July. So go 10 July, and we see that the due date was the 9th of July, so we may get a discount, but we're not going to take it because our check is actually for 945. So I'm going to go payment amount 945 and then tap that through and post. So don't tab all the way through from the beginning, because if you tab all the way through from the beginning, it will go and take a discount here, because the dates are just one day apart from the invoice date to the payment date. But our check is for 945, so we are not taking the discount. We just wrote a check for the exact amount. So I want you to skip tabbing through discount taken, and then just go straight in and click on amount, payment amount, and this will put in the correct total for you, and post. OK, and close. The next transaction is an invoice. So this is an invoice from a supplier to us. So we have incurred an expense or bought a goods of some type. So this is an expense. I want you to go to payables, expense. The method is pay later because it's an invoice and we see no sign of a check attached to it in payment, so it's pay later. Supplier, Zodiac Plus. They are in our records as a supplier. The invoice number is ZP5331, so ZP-5331. The date is 11 July, so go and select 11 July. Item number we don't have, but we do have a quantity 1, and the item description is a consultation table, a 1.5 meter consultation table. Now the price is $600 a piece. GST 5% is $30, and so our invoice is for $630. Post. Say OK and close. The next transaction is another invoice. Now this is an invoice that we are sending out to a client, Stella Book Club, and no checks, so this is pay later. I want you to go to revenue, because the minute we're sending an invoice to a client, it means we've earned money, so we've earned revenue. So when you go into your revenues journal, payment method is pay later. I want you to go and under client select Stella Book Club. The invoice number is 124. The date is 13 July. So change the date to 13 July. Item number, let's go to quantity 1, and the item description is lecture and discussion. Lecture and discussion. You just tap that through. The price is $3.50 an hour, and if you tap that through, it will calculate your GST as $17.50. Tap that to the next line. The quantity is 10 for the next item, and this is individual follow-up consultations. Individual follow-up consultations. The unit amount is $55. Tap that through, times 10 is $550 for the service, and total GST is $45. And post. Close. The next transaction is in memo 5, and it says, please record the following transaction: credit card sales. And you know, when we make credit card sales, that this is revenue. Issue record invoice number 125 dated July 14, 2014. Sell to one-time customers. 20 calls at $9.99 minimum charge. 150 minutes at $365 each, and with GST charged, and it was all paid by credit card. So we have made a credit card sales to the total of $784 including tax. They were paid by credit card. And so you'll notice here at the bottom of the memo it says credit revenue from services. So they're telling us the account to link, because this is just a one-time customer, so we don't have them in their in our records, and so we don't have a linked account yet in which to put the revenue. So I want you to go to revenues. I want you to say pay by charge it, which is credit card. Now this is just a one-time customer. I want you to just select one-time client. The invoice number is 125. The date is 14. So we're going to put 14. Remember I said that change the dates to 2016. So if your instruction says otherwise for transaction date, change it to 2016. And I've changed it for you to 2016 right there, so you should be fine. Quantity for the first item is 20, and the item description is coals. The price is minimum $9.99, and just tap that through, and you see 20 coals at a $9.99 minimum will cost $199.80 to this client. The linked account is credit revenue for services, so we're going to go into that window and look for revenue from services. Select and tap that through. The next item is 150 minutes at $3.65 a piece, which is a total of $5.47 to the client. And again, we're going to link that revenue to revenue for services. Tap that through, and the GST is calculated to be $37.37, and post. Okay, and close. We're going on to memo number 6. In here, we're asked to record the following transaction: cash sales, right? So we're asked to issue or record invoice number 126 dated July 14, 2016 to a walk-in one-time customer for various consultations valued at $380. Right. So the person paid cash, and so we always put our cash will go into obviously our cash account, and we will credit revenue from services. So revenue under receivables in Sage 50, payment method is cash. It goes into our bank checking. Client is one-time client. The invoice number is 126. The date is 14 July. The quantity is various, so we'll just put in item description. So we'll say various consultations. The price, well, let's go in just to put the amount because we have the total, $380, and tap that through. Let's link this to revenue from services. Select, and it's $19 taxes, and so altogether $399, and post. Okay, close. The last memo number 7. In this memo, we're asked to record the following transaction: received bank memo number PB82771 dated July 15, 2016. Pilo Bank has deducted $1,500 for regular monthly mortgage payment. This amount includes interest of $1,200 and $300 in principal. Now, this is a memo from the bank just letting us know that our mortgage has gone through, including the interest. So cash has already been transferred from our account and has gone to our loan to pay off things, and we've been expensed the interest. So all we want to do is just record this. So this is a general journal entry. So I want you to go to general journal, and I want you to go and say the source of this journal entry is memo number PB-82771. Date 15 July, and the account. Now, we always put in the account that is being debited first, and so we need to decide before we put in exactly what we are putting in. So remember, money has left our cash account, which is our bank checking account, and a total of 1,500 has been credited from that account. So the bank checking account is being credited, and this money here is going into two accounts. The first one is interest expense. So you know, when we acknowledge an expense, it's a debit, so we're going to debit our interest expense account for 1,200, and $300 is going to pay our mortgage principal, and so we're going to go into our loan account and we're going to credit that. We're going to debit that for $300 because we're reducing a liability account, so it's a debit. So we're going to debit two accounts and credit one account. So the two that we're debiting, the first one, why don't we put in the expense account? So this is our interest expense. Let's look for it. Interest expense account 5240, select, and we're going to debit that for 1,200. Tap that through and say to pay interest on mortgage. Tab. Now the default is that Sage will put in a credit, so we're going to put in the credit to the cash account. So I want you to select bank checking, which is where the money came from, and the default amount is 1,200 because that will offset the debit of 1,200 that has been expensed, but we want to change that to 1,500. That's exactly how much has been debited, credited in the bank checking account. And then I want you to tap that through. Now the next account will be a credit, and will be a debit, and that will be our liability account. Mortgage payable. So account 2850 mortgage payable, select it, and we're going to debit that $300. And if you tap that through, you see that our debits equal our credits, and post. Okay, close. So that was the final transaction.